The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Saint Luke. Every year, the parents of Jesus used to go to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up for the feast as usual. When they were on their way home after the feast, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem without his parents knowing it. They assumed he was with the caravan, and it was only after a day's journey that they went to look for him among their relations and acquaintances. When they failed to find him, they went back to Jerusalem looking for him everywhere. 3 days later, they found him in the temple, sitting among the doctors, listening to them and asking them questions. And all those who heard him were astounded at his intelligence and his replies. They were overcome when they saw him, and his mother said to him, "My child, why have you done this to us? See how worried your father and I have been looking for you." "Why were you looking for me?" he replied. "Did you not know that I must be busy with my father's affairs?" But they did not understand what he meant. He then went down with them and came to Nazareth and lived under their authority. His mother stored up all these things in her heart, and Jesus increased in wisdom, in stature, and in favor with God and men. The Gospel of the Lord. My dear sisters and brothers in Christ Jesus, a little boy came back home weeping from the school. The mother asked him, "Did anybody hit you in the school? Why are you weeping?" He said, "Mummy, if they had done that, no problem." And still he continued to weep. "Did anybody steal your pencil or pen or notebook?" "No, Mummy, that too didn't take place." "Did anybody make fun of you?" "No, Mummy, nobody made fun of me." "What happened? Tell me the reason. Why are you going on crying?" The boy slowly came out. "We were playing a game during the last hour. That was hide and seek game. It was my turn first to find out my friends who were hiding, and I did my job. When it was my turn to hide, everybody went home. I was sitting there all alone 15 minutes. I cannot bear the disappointment, the humiliation. If they had beaten me, no problem. If they had robbed me of something, no problem. If they had made fun of me, also no problem. But nobody looked for me." My dear brothers and sisters, Mary and Joseph are looking for Jesus. We have to manifest our care and concern for our family members by being really worried about them when they have some problem, when they are lost, when they are in stress. That is the first message I think the Lord is giving us on this feast of the Holy Family. We call the family of Jesus, Mary and Joseph Holy Family, but then that Holy Family had its own problems, difficulties, as most of our families are having. Even the Holy Family had its own share of problems. Maybe more problems than our own families are having now. When Jesus was conceived, imagine the situation of Joseph and Mary, how much they were misunderstood, my dear brothers and sisters. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, what sufferings, humiliation, rejection, being unwanted. And then Jesus had to go as a refugee to Egypt. How much suffering. They also experienced the pain of losing their child for 3 days. Most likely Joseph died when Jesus was at home before he began his public ministry. Mary and Jesus would have experienced also the loss of a dear one. And then afterwards, what all sufferings to Mother Mary. What she heard about her son, a glutton, a drunkard. Above all, seeing his son crucified to death, someone who has done only good for the people. How much suffering. But my dear brothers and sisters, this loving family was closely knit. What was the secret? Yesterday I was sharing with a group, and one of them said, focus on God. Focus on the members of your family. As today's second readings tells us, love God above everything. Love your brothers and sisters. Love your family members. Then you will be an excellent family. They had problems, but they understood each other. They loved each other. You may have all kinds of problems, financial problems, social problems, security problems. The basic thing is, do you focus on God? Do you care for one another? That is the question. Parents have to care for one another. First of all, regarding their children, in today's first reading, we heard Anna coming back to the temple and then saying to the priest Eli, I prayed for this son. God granted me this child. Now I am handing over him to the Lord, the whole of life. Today, first ask dear parents, to whom are you handing over your children? Are you able to say like Anna, I am giving my child to God? So many parents are worried about handing their children over to corporate companies. Sometimes they are handed over to devils and devilish ways. Are you handing over your children to God? Beautiful, that too, for the whole of life. I cared for him till he was 10, 12, 13. But now I don't care for him. No. Parents have a great obligation to hand over their children to God and sacrificing for them. Sometimes you have to give up your own interests, your pleasures for the sake of the growth of the child. So many parents are doing it. I am a great fan of Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. He is 80 years of age now, who worked with Nelson Mandela quite a lot for the liberation of the people. He speaks of his grandmother. He was born in a very poor family. The grandmother used to return home after a hard day's work in a white man's house. And then when he comes back, Bishop Tutu, as a small boy, and his cousins, all of them will surround the grandmother, it seems. Bishop Tutu says, my grandmother would have kept for us the bread and jam she had received from the white man's house for her breakfast. Sacrificing it, she will bring the same breakfast for us to give us in the evening. What sacrifice! That grandmother. So many grandmothers. Speaking of his mother, one day he says he could not return to the boarding school since he had no money to buy the train ticket. So his mother was working in a white man's house for 2 shillings per day. He went together with his mother to the white man's house, and the mother morning itself asked, you will give this evening 2 shillings for a day's work? No, give it, I am going to send my son back home. He recalls it, my mother would have worked the whole day and would have gone empty-handed home. She would not have bought the provisions. She would have been hungry that day. Next day again she has to come, work, and she would have gone. This is Eucharistic existence that parents are called to live, my dear brothers and sisters. Handing over their children to God. And then also toiling hard, sacrificing, Eucharistic life leading, giving their whole life. And then also later on, the children, my dear brothers and sisters, so many young people here I see. One of the commandments that was accompanied by a blessing. Honor your father and mother. Then you will live long. Your prayer will be heard only when you honor your mother and father. A few years ago I was in Sri Lanka. Soon after the midnight mass, all the children, even when they were old, 30 years, they all fell prostrate before the parents, seeking their blessings. The honor, respect that must be shown to the elders. Otherwise your prayer will not be heard. No meaning in coming to this church when you don't honor your parents. A father of a family who was very old wanted to see the daughter who was a solicitor, a lawyer. She didn't seek him for quite some time. Some of us don't visit the elderly parents regularly. Like that, she also had no time. Then when the father called her, she said, no, the next 1 month my schedule is very busy. Next week I have a special client, then I have a coaching program, then this, I cannot come. The father was so down and out, and he said, if I die, will you come for my funeral at least? She was so upset. What, Dad? You are asking me whether I would come for your funeral. I will surely come. Then the dad replied, you need not come for my funeral. I may not be able to see you. I need you more urgently now than when you come for my funeral. Yes, my dear brothers and sisters, how much the parents do. All that we have, our parents have done. Sometimes the children earn in a month what their parents earned in a lifetime, but still their sacrifice those days, that counts quite a lot, my dear brothers and sisters. Coming to the couple themselves, today abroad and all you know, so many other places, especially in the West, they call it a marriage when man and man live together. They call it a marriage, woman and woman living together. And recently in France, they didn't even want to call father, and mother as mother. They want to give equality, it seems. Parent one, parent two. What a tragedy. Parent one, parent two. They wanted to legislate in this way. So many things. The church cannot accept all these type of aberrations as families. And in the families, how much husband and wife respect each other, love each other. That is very, very important. Do you have time for your wife, for your husband, for your children, for your parents? The problem is people have time for their computer, for their friends, for so many other things, except for the families. Give time, give attention. I want to conclude with another little incident that took place. The founder of the Persian Empire, Cyrus, he conquered all the small kings. And then there was one person, Cagula. He was not to be defeated easily. So he sent more soldiers to confiscate him, to arrest him. Finally, when Cagula was brought to the palace of Cyrus, Cyrus asked Cagula, if I spare your life, what will you do? He said, I will be your servant, my lord. If I spare the life of your wife, what will you do? Then he went a step further and then said, I will die for you. If you spare the life of my wife also, I will die for you. Cyrus saw the love of Cagula for his wife and then said, okay, you can go home and then govern the territory on your own, he said. Released him. On the way back, Cagula asked his wife, did you see the palace? What marbles, what decorations? Then the wife said, I did not see any of this. I only saw the man who said that he will give his life if my life is spared. In other words, she said, I only looked at your face. I did not see any of this. My dear brothers and sisters, today the Lord wants us to look at Him first and foremost. If you want to have happy families, to look at your spouse, to look at your children, to look at your parents, know their needs. Don't look at other things which are passing, which are not lasting. Look at God, look at your family members, know their needs. Have a sensitive heart, sensitive eye, sensitive ear. May we grow in the model of the Holy Family. Amen.